The doorbell wouldn't stop ringing at exactly 1:15 p.m. I was in my bedroom getting ready for my lung doctor appointment, the one I'd scheduled 5 weeks ago after the coughing started keeping me awake every night. "Barbara, I really need you today. Can you please watch Lily and Owen? My presentation got moved up and I absolutely have to be there." It was Jennifer, my son's wife, and her voice had that sharp edge she used when she wanted something right away, like my 62 years on this planet had trained me to drop everything and become her backup plan whenever her schedule got messy. "Jennifer, I really can't help you today. I have my appointment with a breathing doctor at 2:30 and I've been waiting over a month to see him." A breathing doctor. Barbara, come on. This presentation could mean a promotion for me. Can't you just move your appointment to another day? She said it like my health was just something I could shuffle around like a dinner reservation. "Jennifer, I've been coughing so badly at night that I can barely sleep. The doctor needs to check my lungs. This isn't something I can just skip." "Well, I need someone to help me and you're their grandmother. Don't you care about your own grandchildren?" That question felt like a slap across my face. Since my husband Thomas died 3 years ago, I'd been learning how to say no without feeling terrible about it. I'd spent too many years saying yes to everyone until I was exhausted and angry. "Jennifer, caring about my grandchildren means staying healthy enough to be in their lives for many more years. This doctor appointment is important. You're being really selfish right now, Barbara. You're putting yourself ahead of your family. What kind of grandmother chooses a doctor over helping with her grandkids?" The phone went dead before I could answer. I stood there holding my cell phone, feeling that familiar guilt creeping into my stomach. Jennifer was really good at making her problems sound like my fault, at making me feel bad for having my own needs. But the therapy I'd been doing since Thomas died had taught me something important. Just because someone calls something an emergency doesn't mean it automatically becomes my responsibility, especially when Jennifer seemed to have these emergencies every single week. I looked at my watch. 1:45 p.m. I needed to leave in about 30 minutes to make it to the doctor's office across town and find parking. I gathered up the medical papers the doctor had asked me to bring and tried to push Jennifer's angry words out of my head. My phone buzzed with a message from Tommy, my son. "Mom, can you help Jen with the kids? She's really stressed and needs support right now. Type back fast. Sorry, I have a medical appointment I can't miss. Maybe her friend Rachel can help." Rachel was Jennifer's best friend who didn't work and lived 15 minutes away. "Rachel's busy today. Mom, family should come first, shouldn't they? Family first." That phrase Jennifer and Tommy used whenever they wanted me to cancel my own plans and fix their problems. I'd heard it so much since Thomas died, like being a widow somehow turned me into the family's emergency contact for every little inconvenience. I turned my phone to silent mode and finished getting my papers ready. At 2:15 I got into my car, locked my front door, and headed to the medical building for the appointment that might tell me whether my coughing was just stress or something much more serious that needed treatment right away. The doctor's waiting room was packed with people who had also decided their health was important enough to keep their appointments despite whatever else was happening in their lives. Dr. Chen was very careful with his questions, asking about my coughing when it started, whether Thomas had any breathing problems before his heart gave out 2 years after he stopped working. "Mrs. Peterson, based on what you're telling me and your history, I want to schedule some special breathing tests for next week. The coughing you're describing could be from anxiety after losing your husband, but it could also be a lung problem that needs immediate attention. How serious could it be? If your symptoms get worse or you start having trouble breathing, I want you to go straight to the emergency room. Don't wait for the scheduled tests." He gave me papers to read and forms for the tests. "Mrs. Peterson, you did the right thing by coming in today. These symptoms are not something you should ignore or put off." I drove home feeling glad I'd kept the appointment, but also worried about what the tests might show. Thomas had ignored his chest pain for half a year, saying it was just heartburn from work stress. When he finally saw a doctor, his heart was already too damaged to fix. At 5:45 p.m. my phone rang. Jennifer's name popped up on the screen and I answered, thinking maybe she'd apologize or at least ask how my doctor visit went. "Barbara, where are my kids?" "What do you mean, where are your kids?" "They're with you at your house. I sent them there in an Uber over an hour ago and you're not answering your door." The room started spinning. Jennifer, what are you talking about? I told you very clearly that I couldn't watch them today. I was at my doctor appointment. I sent them anyway. The Uber was supposed to drop them at 823 Pine Avenue at 4 o'clock. They should have been waiting when you got home. 823 Pine Avenue was my address, but I'd been at Dr. Chen's office at 4 o'clock, then stopped at the pharmacy to pick up some cough medicine. More importantly, Jennifer had put my grandchildren in an Uber to my house without asking me first, assuming I'd skip my medical appointment because she forced my hand. Jennifer, I live at 823 Pine Avenue. If an Uber dropped them here, they would have been sitting on my porch when I got home 30 minutes ago. Well, they're not there. I'm standing at your door right now and there's no sign of them anywhere. Fear shot through my chest. Are you absolutely sure you gave the driver the correct address? Course I'm sure. I wrote it down on paper. 823 Pine Avenue. What's the driver's name? Do you have the Uber information? I uninstalled the app right after I booked the ride. I don't know the driver's name or the car information or anything like that. The size of this disaster started sinking in like ice water. Jennifer had put 2 small children into a car with a complete stranger, given handwritten directions, and then deleted all the information about the trip. Lily and Owen, 7 and 5 years old, were somewhere in the city with no way to track where they'd gone. Jennifer, we need to call 911 right this second. Call 911. Barbara, this is your fault. If you had just watched them like you should have, none of this would be happening. Even now, even with her children missing somewhere unknown, Jennifer's first reaction was to blame me for the results of her own reckless decision. But I didn't have time to argue about whose fault this was. Jennifer, hang up right now and call 911. Tell them your children are missing and give them whatever information you have about the Uber. I'm calling from my phone too. As I dialed emergency services, I stared out my front window at the empty street, trying to imagine what went wrong with Jennifer's plan to force me into babysitting by abandoning children at my house. Some mistakes, I was starting to realize, created consequences that hurt way more people than just the person who made them. And some emergencies were actually real, even when they were caused by the same person who'd created fake emergencies so many times before. The police showed up at my house in 15 minutes. 2 officers who handled the situation with the serious focus of people who dealt with missing children before. Officer Martinez, a man in his 50s with gray hair and a calm voice, wrote down detailed notes while Officer Kim walked around my neighborhood asking if anyone had seen 2 young children being dropped off by an Uber driver. Mrs. Peterson, can you walk me through exactly what happened today? Officer Martinez asked, sitting down in my living room with his notepad open. Your daughter-in-law called asking for childcare. What time was that? 1:15 p.m. I remember because I was getting ready for my lung doctor appointment at 2:30 and I looked at the clock when my phone rang. And you said you couldn't watch the children because of this medical appointment. I explained that I'd been waiting 5 weeks for this appointment because of serious coughing problems. I felt like I needed to explain why I'd said no, even though I knew in my head that I hadn't done anything wrong. Jennifer got upset and told me I was being selfish for choosing my health over helping with the kids. Officer Martinez kept writing without showing any opinion. When did Jennifer tell you she'd sent the children in an Uber? 5:45 p.m. She called angry, asking where they were, thinking they'd been dropped at my house and I was just ignoring her knocking on my door. So the children were missing for about an hour and 45 minutes before anyone realized something was wrong. The math made my stomach hurt. Lily and Owen had been lost and scared and maybe in danger for almost 2 hours while Jennifer did whatever she was really doing, and I drove home from my appointment with no idea that anything was wrong. Officer Kim came back from talking to neighbors, shaking his head. Nobody saw children being dropped off here today, but Mr. Thompson at 825 Pine Avenue said he noticed an Uber driver looking confused around 4 o'clock, checking addresses and driving very slowly down the street. Did he see children in the car? He wasn't paying close attention. He was working in his garage and just noticed when he heard a car engine running in front of his house for a few minutes. Officer Martinez closed his notepad and looked at me with an expression that said he'd seen too many cases exactly like this one. Mrs. Peterson, we've put out an alert for Lily and Owen Peterson, age 7 and 5. We're contacting Uber to get the ride information from this afternoon. Though without the booking details or driver information, it might take a while. What can I do? Stay here in case the children find their way to your address. Keep your phone on. And Mrs. Peterson, she paused like she was picking her words carefully. We'll need to investigate what led to this situation. Child endangerment laws exist for when children are put in dangerous situations because of parent carelessness. The meaning was obvious. Jennifer could face criminal charges for deciding to send Lily and Owen in an Uber without proper planning or supervision. After the officers left, I sat in my living room staring at my phone, waiting for news and trying to process how big this disaster was. My medical appointment, the one Jennifer wanted me to skip to babysit, had shown that I might have serious lung problems that needed more tests right away. But her anger about me refusing to cancel had made her put Lily and Owen in danger. At 7:30 p.m. my phone rang. Tommy's name showed up on the screen. Mom, Jennifer told me the kids are missing. What happened? Your wife put Lily and Owen in an Uber to my house without asking me first, after I'd clearly told her I couldn't watch them today because of a medical appointment. But Mom, why didn't you just... Tommy, stop right there. Something hard settled in my chest, a clarity that cut through all the guilt Jennifer's accusations had created. Your children are missing because your wife made a dangerous, careless decision after I clearly said I wasn't available. Don't you dare try to make this my fault. There was silence on his end. In the 3 years since Thomas died, I'd been careful to keep peace in the family, often giving up my own boundaries and needs to keep everyone happy. But tonight, with Lily and Owen somewhere unknown and possibly unsafe, I couldn't stomach another conversation where Jennifer's bad choices became proof that I was a bad grandmother. The police are investigating this as child endangerment, Tommy. Your wife could face criminal charges. Criminal charges. Mom, that sounds extreme. What sounds extreme is putting 2 young children in a car with a stranger and deleting all the information about the trip. What sounds extreme is not checking on them for almost 2 hours after abandoning them with someone who'd clearly said they weren't available. My doorbell rang, interrupting our call. Through the peephole, I could see Officer Martinez standing on my porch with a woman I'd never seen before. Tommy, I have to go. Police are back. I opened the door to find Officer Martinez with a social worker holding a clipboard and wearing the tired look of someone who'd been handling family disasters all day. Mrs. Peterson, this is Linda Chen from Child Protective Services. We've found Lily and Owen. Relief hit me so hard I had to grab the doorframe to stay standing. Are they okay? Where were they? They're physically fine, Ms. Chen said, but they're frightened and confused. The Uber driver apparently misread the handwritten address and dropped them at 823 Pine Street instead of 823 Pine Avenue. That address is an empty store in a rough part of town. The children were found by a store owner who called police when she saw 2 young kids sitting on the steps of a closed building as it was getting dark. An empty store. The children were found by neighbors who called police when they spotted 2 young kids sitting outside a locked building asking for their grandmother. Officer Martinez looked at his notes. The good news is they're safe. The concerning news is that they were alone in an unsafe area for over 3 hours while their mother was. He paused, checking his information. According to Uber records and social media posts, Jennifer Peterson was at a spa getting beauty treatments when she booked the ride for the children. A spa. My voice barely worked. Ms. Chen nodded seriously. We have Facebook photos of Mrs. Peterson at the spa posted between 3:30 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. while her children were missing, and she was telling police it was a work presentation. The lie hurt like a punch to the stomach. Jennifer hadn't sent Lily and Owen to my house because of a work emergency. She'd sent them because she wanted a spa day and thought she could manipulate me into providing free babysitting by creating a situation that would make saying no seem heartless. Where are the children right now? They're at the police station with a counselor being talked to by specially trained people. Mrs. Peterson, given what happened here, we need to talk about temporary custody while we investigate. Temporary custody. Child endangerment cases need careful evaluation of whether parents can safely care for their children. Until we finish our investigation, Lily and Owen need a safe, stable place with a responsible caregiver. Officer Martinez looked at me with something like sympathy in his eyes. Mrs. Peterson, would you be willing to provide temporary care for your grandchildren? You're their closest relative, and they've been asking for their grandmother since we found them. I thought about my lung symptoms, about the breathing test scheduled for next week, about the quiet retired life I'd been carefully building since Thomas died. Then I thought about Lily and Owen, 7 and 5 years old, sitting scared and confused in a police station because the adults responsible for them had chosen a spa day over their safety. Yes, I said immediately. Yes, I'll take care of them. Some emergencies, I was learning, were actually worth disrupting your life for. And some grandmothers discovered that saying no sometimes led to situations where saying yes became the only right choice available. Seeing Lily and Owen at the police station broke something inside me I didn't know could break. They sat in small chairs in a room painted bright blue, holding apple juice boxes and looking tinier and more fragile than I'd ever seen them. Lily's blonde hair was messy, and she still wore her school clothes from that morning, a lifetime ago, when the biggest worry had been Jennifer's inconvenient babysitting request. Grandma Barbara. Owen threw himself into my arms the second he saw me, his 5-year-old body shaking with relief and exhaustion. Lily followed more slowly, her 7-year-old eyes holding questions I wasn't ready to answer. Are we in trouble? Lily asked, her voice so quiet I could barely hear it. The police lady said Mommy made a mistake, but we didn't do anything bad. I got down to their level, my own eyes filling with tears at the unfairness of children blaming themselves for adult failures. You're not in trouble, sweetheart. Not even a little bit. You and Owen didn't do anything wrong at all. Where's Mommy? Owen asked, his little hand grabbing my shirt. Why didn't she come get us? The counselor, a kind woman named Maria who worked with children, caught my eye and shook her head slightly. Jennifer hadn't been allowed to see Lily and Owen yet because of the investigation. Child Protective Services needed to make sure the children were safe before deciding about visits. Mommy has to talk to some people first, I said carefully. But you're going to stay with me tonight, okay? We'll have dinner and watch cartoons, and everything will be okay tomorrow. Miss Chen came over with papers and the serious face that made my stomach tight. Mrs. Peterson, we need to go over the temporary custody paperwork. You'll be responsible for Lily and Owen's care while we complete our investigation into the endangerment charges. How long will that take? Usually 3 to 6 weeks. For cases like this, we'll need to interview everyone involved, look at all the evidence, and check the home environment before deciding on permanent custody. I signed paper after paper, officially taking responsibility for 2 children whose mother had chosen a spa day over their welfare. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd said no to watching them for a few hours so I could go to an important medical appointment, and now I was committing to take care of them indefinitely while their mother faced possible criminal charges. The drive home was quiet except for Owen's occasional sniffles and Lily's whispered comfort to her little brother. I'd stopped at a fast food place for dinner, knowing my refrigerator had food for one person and my cupboards didn't have kid-friendly snacks. Grandma Barbara, Lily said as we pulled into my driveway, why did the Uberman take us to the wrong place? I thought about how to explain adult incompetence to children who deserved better than this. Sometimes when addresses are written by hand, they're hard to read clearly. The driver thought he was taking you to my house, but he got confused. Mommy wrote it wrong. The driver couldn't read it well enough to find the right place. But we told him we were going to Grandma's house. Why didn't he just ask us for directions? 7-year-old logic cutting right to the heart of every adult failure in the situation. I don't know, sweetheart. Grown-ups don't always make the best choices, even when they think they're helping. Inside my house, I realized how completely unprepared I was for overnight guests, much less long-term childcare. My spare bedrooms had sewing supplies and old furniture, not children's beds. My kitchen had coffee and healthy cereal, not the snacks and easy meals kids needed. Can we call Daddy? Owen asked while barely touching his chicken nuggets. Course we can call Daddy. I dialed Tommy's number and put the phone on speaker so both children could talk to their father. His voice sounded strained when he answered. Lily, Owen, are you okay? Daddy's been so worried about you. We're okay, Lily said with the calmness of a child who'd learned to comfort worried adults. We're at Grandma Barbara's house. She got us dinner. Where's Mommy? Owen asked, the question that had been hanging over our whole evening. There was a long pause before Tommy answered. Mommy has to stay somewhere else tonight while some people figure things out. But you're safe with Grandma Barbara and I'll see you tomorrow, okay? After the call ended, I helped the children get ready for makeshift sleeping arrangements. Lily in my spare bedroom with extra blankets to make the old daybed comfortable. Owen on my living room sofa with pillows and his favorite stuffed bear that I'd grabbed from their house. Grandma Barbara, Lily said as I tucked her in, are Mommy and Daddy going to split up? The question surprised me. Why would you think that, sweetheart? Because Mommy's been going out a lot and Daddy gets upset when she does. And now she's in trouble with the police. Lily's matter-of-fact tone told me she'd been worrying about family stability for way longer than any 7-year-old should have to. I don't know what will happen with Mommy and Daddy, I said honestly. But I know that no matter what happens, you and Owen will be loved and taken care of. By me, by Daddy, by people who love you and want you to be safe. After both children finally fell asleep, I sat in my kitchen with tea and called my friend Dorothy, who'd raised 4 children and might have practical advice about sudden grandmother custody. Barbara, my goodness, are you sure you can handle this? Full-time childcare is exhausting under normal circumstances, and this situation sounds incredibly messy. I'm scared, I admitted. But Dorothy, these children were abandoned because their mother wanted a spa day. Lily is asking if her parents are splitting up. Owen keeps asking why Mommy didn't come get them. How could I possibly not take care of them? What about your health problems? Your lung symptoms? I thought about my appointment with Dr. Chen, about the breathing test scheduled for next week, about the cough that seemed less important now than Lily's frightened questions and Owen's need for reassurance. I'll figure it out. The children need stability right now, and I'm the only family member who's available and responsible enough to give it to them. What about Tommy? Tommy enabled Jennifer's behavior for years. He's going to have to prove he can put his children's welfare first before anyone trusts him with full custody again. After hanging up, I walked through my quiet house, checking on 2 sleeping children who'd been failed by the adults who were supposed to protect them. Lily was hugging a throw pillow like a teddy bear, and Owen had kicked his blankets off despite the cool night. I covered Owen back up and stood looking down at his peaceful face, thinking about the conversation I'd need to have with Jennifer tomorrow, about the legal process that would decide these children's future, about the life changes I'd face as a suddenly active grandmother. Some emergencies, I was learning, changed your whole existence in ways you never planned or expected. But some changes were worth accepting when the alternative was letting innocent children suffer for their parents' failures. Tomorrow I would figure out how to balance my own health needs with full-time childcare responsibilities. Tonight I would simply be grateful that Lily and Owen were safe, warm, and sleeping peacefully in a house where their welfare was the absolute top priority. The next morning started with a series of revelations that made Jennifer's betrayal even worse than I'd originally understood. Lily and Owen woke up early, confused about where they were until memory returned, and Lily's face crumpled with the weight of yesterday's trauma. "I want to go home," she whispered, climbing into my lap as I sat with my morning coffee. "I want everything to be normal again." "I know, sweetheart. I want that too." Owen joined us in the kitchen, still wearing yesterday's clothes and carrying his stuffed bear. "Grandma Barbara, why can't we go to our house?" Before I could answer, my doorbell rang. Through the window I could see Ms. Chen from Child Protective Services with a police officer I didn't recognize. My stomach clenched as I realized this visit probably brought news I wasn't ready to hear. "Lily, Owen, could you go wash your hands and faces? We'll make pancakes after I talk to these people." I opened the door to find Ms. Chen holding a thick folder and wearing the expression of someone who'd spent the night reviewing evidence that had only gotten worse with examination. "Mrs. Peterson, we need to discuss some developments in the case. May we come inside?" I led them to my living room, positioning myself where I could still see the children in the kitchen. "What kind of developments?" Ms. Chen opened her folder and spread out papers that looked like social media screenshots and official documents. "We've been investigating Jennifer Peterson's activities yesterday, and the situation is more serious than we initially reported." "More serious how?" Officer Jackson, the new officer, looked at his notes. "Mrs. Peterson wasn't just at a spa for beauty treatments. She was at an expensive resort spa with a group that included several people with gambling-related arrests. Social media posts show her drinking wine and engaging in behavior that suggests she was gambling. I felt the blood drain from my face. Gambling. Instagram posts from her account between 2:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. show her at the resort spa clearly drinking, playing cards for money, and in one case appearing to be in a private gambling room taking selfies with stacks of chips. Ms. Chen handed me printed screenshots that made my stomach turn. Jennifer, Lily and Owen's mother, had been gambling in a private room while her children sat scared and alone outside an empty store. But that's not everything, Ms. Chen continued. We interviewed Jennifer last night and her story changed multiple times. First, she claimed it was a work presentation. When confronted with evidence she was at a spa resort, she said it was a corporate wellness event. When shown the social media posts, she admitted it was recreational but claimed she'd arranged for you to watch the children. She knew I'd said no. She knew I had a medical appointment. According to her statement, she believed you were just being difficult and that once the children arrived, you'd have no choice but to take care of them. Officer Jackson looked up from his notes. Mrs. Peterson, she also admitted this isn't the first time she's used this strategy. What do you mean? She's apparently sent Lily and Owen to relatives' houses without permission on several occasions, assuming family members would feel obligated to provide childcare rather than turn away children who'd already been dropped off. I thought about the times over the past year when Jennifer had called last minute with various emergencies, the guilt trips when I declined because of my own commitments, the way she'd made me feel selfish for having boundaries around my time and energy. How many times? Ms. Chen looked at another document. Lily mentioned during her interview that Mommy sometimes sends them to Aunt Carol's house in Uber rides when she has important things to do. Aunt Carol is Jennifer's sister who works double shifts at a hospital and has told Jennifer repeatedly not to send children to her apartment without warning. So the children have been dropped off at people's homes before without arrangements, multiple times. Lily has been keeping track because she worries about relatives getting upset when they show up unexpectedly. Ms. Chen's voice was gentle but firm. Mrs. Peterson, this pattern of behavior represents ongoing child endangerment and neglect. I looked toward the kitchen where Lily and Owen were trying to make their own breakfast, Lily reading cereal box directions to Owen while trying to act like the responsible adult their mother had failed to be. What happens now? Jennifer Peterson has been charged with child endangerment, reckless endangerment, and child abandonment. Given the evidence of gambling problems and the pattern of negligent behavior, we're recommending that temporary custody remain with you while we complete a full investigation. Officer Jackson added, "We'll also be investigating your son Tommy's knowledge of and participation in this pattern. Did he know about his wife's habit of abandoning the children with unwilling relatives?" "I don't know." Tommy tends to believe Jennifer's explanations without questioning much. We'll be interviewing him today. Mrs. Peterson, are you prepared to continue caring for Lily and Owen for an extended period? This investigation could take several weeks and depending on what we find, you might be looking at longer-term custody arrangements. I thought about my lung symptoms, about the breathing test scheduled for next week, about the quiet retirement I'd been carefully building. Then I looked at Lily, who was pouring milk for Owen while humming softly, taking care of her little brother because the adults in her life had proven unreliable. Yes, I'll take care of them for as long as they need me. After the officials left, I sat down with Lily and Owen to explain what would happen next. Lily listened with the serious focus of a child who'd learned that adult promises weren't always reliable, while Owen focused on his cereal and occasionally asked questions about whether they were in trouble. "You'll stay here with me while some people figure out how to make sure you're safe," I told them. "Your daddy will visit, but your mommy has to work with some helpers to learn better ways to take care of you." "Is mommy sick?" Lily asked. "In a way, yes. She made some choices that weren't safe for you and Owen, and now she needs help learning how to make better choices. Like when Sophie's dad had to go away for drinking too much." I realized Lily was referring to a classmate whose father had been in rehab. 7 years old, and she already had frameworks for understanding parent problems and family breakdown. "Something like that, sweetheart." My phone rang. Tommy's number. I answered while the children finished breakfast. "Mom, I just finished talking to the police. Jennifer's been arrested. They're saying she was gambling at this spa resort while the kids were missing. No. Child Protective Services was here this morning. Mom, I had no idea. I knew Jennifer went out with friends sometimes, but I thought it was just normal social stuff. I didn't know about the gambling or about her sending the kids places without permission. Tommy, how could you not know? Lily told the investigators that Jennifer has been dropping them off at relatives' houses in Uber rides multiple times. There was a long pause. I work long hours, Mom. Jennifer handles most of the childcare planning. When she said she'd arranged babysitting, I believed her. Even when family members complained about children showing up unexpectedly at their homes. What do you mean? Your Aunt Carol. Jennifer's been sending Lily and Owen to her apartment without warning. Tommy, a woman who works 16-hour hospital shifts, and explicitly told her not to do it. I could hear Tommy processing this information, probably realizing how many warning signs he'd ignored because he trusted his wife's explanations. Mom, what do I need to do to get my kids back? You need to prove that you can protect them from their mother's negligence. And Tommy, you need to figure out how you missed years of behavior that put your children at risk. Some conversations, I was learning, required uncomfortable truths that couldn't be softened by family loyalty. And some parents had to earn back the right to be trusted with their children's welfare. 3 weeks into our new arrangement, I was starting to understand that temporary custody meant rebuilding my entire life around the needs of 2 traumatized children. Lily had started having nightmares, waking up crying almost every night. Owen refused to let me leave his sight, following me from room to room like a frightened puppy. The call from Dr. Chen's office came on a Thursday morning while I was helping Owen with spelling homework, and Lily was trying to braid her own hair with the focus of someone trying to control at least one thing in her disrupted world. Mrs. Peterson, you missed your follow-up appointment yesterday for the breathing tests. Dr. Chen is very concerned about your lung symptoms and wants to reschedule immediately. I looked at my kitchen calendar where Lily's school activities, Owen's dentist appointment, and my own medical needs competed for space in cramped handwriting that told the story of a life suddenly stretched beyond its limits. Sorry. I've been dealing with a family crisis. My grandchildren are living with me temporarily. Mrs. Peterson, Dr. Chen stressed that your symptoms require urgent evaluation. Delaying lung testing could be dangerous. Can we schedule something for next week? We had to give your appointment slot to another patient. The next available opening is 4 weeks out. 4 weeks. I thought about the coughing I'd been ignoring while focusing on bedtime stories and homework help, about the breathing difficulties I'd blamed on stress rather than possible lung problems, about Thomas's sudden death and my promise to myself to take care of my health. Fine. Schedule it for 4 weeks from now. After I hung up, Lily looked at me with the observant attention she'd developed since the night her world fell apart. Grandma Barbara, are you sick? I'm fine, sweetheart. Just some routine doctor stuff. Mommy used to say she was fine when she wasn't really fine. 7 years old, and Lily had learned to read adult deception with the accuracy of someone whose survival had depended on understanding her mother's moods and truthfulness. I have to see a lung doctor, but it's probably nothing serious. Just something doctors check when people get older, like Grandpa Thomas's heart. The question hit me like ice water. Lily had been only 4 when Thomas died, but she remembered the hospital visits, the scary medical machines, the way her grandfather had gone from healthy to gone in just a few weeks. Grandma Barbara, you can't die, Owen said matter-of-factly, looking up from his spelling words. We need you to take care of us. The weight of their dependence felt like a heavy blanket on my shoulders. These children had already lost their stable home, their mother's presence, and their father's reliability. The thought of them facing another adult abandonment, even through illness, made my chest hurt with worry that had nothing to do with lung symptoms. My phone rang. Ms. Chen from Child Protective Services. Mrs. Peterson, we need to schedule a home visit to check on the children's adjustment and your caregiving situation. Also, there's been a development with Jennifer's case. What kind of development? She's been arrested again. Illegal gambling operation this time. She was caught at an underground casino and police found evidence she'd been gambling away family savings. I felt the last of my hopes about Jennifer's capacity for responsible parenting crumble into dust. When did this happen? 2 nights ago. Mrs. Peterson, this significantly changes the custody situation. We're now looking at potential termination of parental rights rather than family reunification. What does that mean for Lily and Owen? It means their temporary placement with you may become permanent. Are you prepared for that possibility? I looked at Lily, who was listening to my half of the conversation with the careful attention of someone who'd learned that adult phone calls often decided children's fates. Owen had abandoned his spelling homework and moved closer to me, sensing tension he couldn't fully understand but instinctively feared. Yes, I said without hesitation. I'm prepared for that. After ending the call, I realized I needed to have the conversation I'd been avoiding since this crisis started. I sat down with Lily and Owen in the living room, choosing words carefully for a discussion that would shape their understanding of their future. That was Ms. Chen from Child Protective Services. She wanted me to know that your mommy has been arrested again. For what? Lily asked. For gambling with money that wasn't supposed to be used for that. Money that was supposed to help take care of your family. Is mommy going to jail? Probably yes. For a while. Owen climbed into my lap, his small body seeking comfort against news he didn't fully understand but recognized as bad. Does that mean we can't live with mommy anymore? It means you'll probably live with me for a long time. Maybe forever. Lily was quiet for several minutes, processing this information with a careful thought she applied to all the adult failures in her life. Grandma Barbara, if we live with you forever, will you still love us if we mess up? The question revealed the damaged thinking of children who'd learned to blame themselves for their mother's neglect, who'd learned to believe that love was something you had to earn through perfect behavior rather than something you deserved just for existing. Lily, Owen listened to me very carefully. I will love you no matter what happens. If you make mistakes, if you get bad grades, if you're sad or angry or scared, I will still love you. My love for you isn't something you have to earn or something you can lose by being imperfect. Even if we're expensive and you don't have much money. I realized Lily was remembering arguments she'd heard between Jennifer and Tommy, fights about childcare costs and the financial burden of raising children properly. Even then, we'll figure out the money part together. But Lily, you and Owen are not burdens. You're not problems to solve. You're people who deserve love and safety and stability. What about Daddy? Owen asked. Can we still see Daddy? Daddy will visit and maybe someday you can visit him too. But right now, Daddy has to prove that he can take better care of you before you can live with him again. That evening, after the children were asleep, I called my sister Margaret in Florida to discuss the reality of raising 2 young children in my 60s while dealing with potential lung problems. Barbara, are you absolutely sure you can handle this? Full-time parenting is exhausting at any age, but at 62 with health problems. Margaret, these children have been abandoned and hurt. Lily is 7 years old and she's asking me if I'll still love her if she messes up. Owen follows me to the bathroom because he's afraid I'll disappear like his mother did. How can I possibly not take care of them? What if your lung condition is serious? What if you need treatment or extended medical care? Then I'll deal with that when it happens. But Margaret, the alternative is putting them in foster care with strangers while their father proves he's capable of being responsible and their mother serves a jail sentence for illegal gambling. Have you thought about the financial implications? Raising 2 children on your retirement income. I had thought about it. The life insurance from Thomas's death would cover emergencies, but my retirement savings would be stretched thin by the additional expenses of raising children. I'd need to apply for financial assistance, possibly return to work part-time, certainly give up the comfortable retirement I'd planned. I'll figure it out. Margaret, when I was sitting in that hospital bed after Thomas died, I promised myself I'd find ways to matter, to contribute, to build meaning from grief. Maybe this is how. By sacrificing your health and financial security. By choosing family over convenience. By proving that some grandmothers step up when parents fail. After we hung up, I walked through my house looking at the evidence of 2 children who transformed my quiet widowhood into active, chaotic, meaningful daily life. Owen's toy cars scattered across the living room floor. Lily's books stacked on the coffee table. Drawings on my refrigerator showing our family in bright marker colors that included me as the central figure. Some sacrifices I was beginning to understand weren't really sacrifices at all. They were opportunities to discover that love could expand, that family could be rebuilt from crisis, and that saying yes to unexpected responsibilities could lead to purposes you'd never imagined finding. My lung symptoms would have to wait 3 more weeks. My grandchildren couldn't. Tommy's first visit since the custody arrangements were formalized happened on a Saturday morning that had started with Lily refusing to eat breakfast, and Owen announcing that he didn't want to go to school anymore because the other kids asked too many questions about why he lived with his grandmother now. I'd spent an hour trying to convince Lily to eat something while simultaneously explaining to Owen why education mattered even when life was complicated, when Tommy knocked on my door carrying a stuffed animal and wearing the expression of a man who'd finally understood how badly he'd failed as a father. "Mom, thank you for taking care of them. I know this isn't what you planned for your retirement." I let him in, noticing how different he looked after a month of facing the consequences of his willful blindness to Jennifer's behavior. He'd lost weight, and there were dark circles under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights spent confronting truths he'd avoided for years. "Daddy." Owen launched himself into Tommy's arms with the desperate enthusiasm of a 5-year-old, who'd learned not to take parental presence for granted. Lily approached more cautiously, watching her father's face for signs of the disappointment or anger she'd learned to expect from adults. "How are my kids?" Tommy asked, settling onto the couch with Owen still clinging to him while Lily maintained careful distance. "They're adjusting," I said, choosing words carefully in front of children who'd become extra alert about adult conversations. "It's been an emotional time for everyone. Lily, sweetheart, come here. I missed you so much." Lily approached slowly, accepting Tommy's hug but keeping her face guarded. "Daddy, why didn't you know Mommy was gambling away our money?" The question hung in the air like smoke, revealing how much Lily had processed about her family's collapse, and how many adult explanations had failed to satisfy her need for understanding. Tommy's face crumpled with what looked like genuine regret. "I should have known, Lily. I should have paid more attention and asked harder questions. That's my fault, not yours or Owen's. Are you going to take us back home?" "Not yet, sweetheart. I have to prove to the people who make these decisions that I can take better care of you first. And Lily, even when that happens, you might still spend lots of time here with Grandma Barbara." "Why?" Tommy looked at me, and I could see him struggling with how much truth to share with children who'd already absorbed more adult complexity than any kid should have to process. "Because Grandma Barbara has been taking better care of you than Daddy and Mommy did. Because you're safe and happy here in ways you weren't at home." It was the first time Tommy had acknowledged the dysfunction that had characterized Lily and Owen's daily life before the custody crisis, and I felt something shift in my opinion of his capacity for growth and change. After Tommy left, promising to return next weekend and call every Thursday evening, Lily approached me with the serious expression she wore when processing difficult information. "Grandma Barbara, do you think Daddy will really get better at taking care of us?" "I think he wants to get better. Whether he actually will depends on whether he's willing to do the hard work of changing how he makes decisions about family." "What kind of hard work?" "Learning to put you and Owen first, even when that's inconvenient. Learning to ask hard questions about people's behavior instead of believing easy explanations. Learning to protect you from adults who make choices that hurt children." Lily nodded with the seriousness of someone who'd learned to evaluate adult reliability through experience rather than promises. "Grandma Barbara, can I ask you something?" "Course, sweetheart. If Daddy gets better and we go back to living with him, will you still be our grandmother? Will we still see you all the time?" The question revealed Lily's deepest fear, that stability was temporary, that love was conditional, that the safety she'd found with me would disappear if family circumstances changed. "Lily, I will always be your grandmother, no matter where you live or who takes care of you day to day. You and Owen are part of my heart now, and that doesn't change based on living arrangements. Promise." "Promise." That afternoon, while Owen napped and Lily worked on a school project about family trees that had become complicated by recent events, my phone rang with a call I'd been dreading. Dr. Chen's office, following up on my missed lung appointments. "Mrs. Peterson, Dr. Chen is very concerned about your continued delays in getting tested. Given your family history and symptoms, postponing evaluation could be life-threatening. I understand the urgency, but I'm currently caring for my grandchildren full-time because of a family crisis. It's difficult to schedule medical appointments when I can't leave them with anyone else. Mrs. Peterson, what would happen to your grandchildren's care if you had a lung emergency? Wouldn't it be better to address potential problems now rather than wait for a crisis? The logic was undeniable and terrifying. If my symptoms indicated serious lung disease, delaying treatment could result in the kind of sudden health crisis that had taken Thomas, leaving Lily and Owen to face another abandonment by an adult they'd come to depend on. Can we schedule the breathing test for a time when I can bring the children with me? They're 7 and 5 and they can sit quietly in a waiting room if necessary. Mrs. Peterson, lung testing procedures aren't really appropriate for children to witness. The breathing exercises and monitoring equipment can be frightening for young observers. Then what do you suggest? I can't leave them with anyone else and I can't keep ignoring symptoms that could indicate serious problems. There was a pause while the scheduler talked to Dr. Chen. Dr. Chan says he can arrange for a child specialist to watch Lily and Owen in a separate area during your testing. Can you come in next Tuesday morning at 10 a.m.? Yes, thank you. After hanging up, I realized I needed to prepare Lily and Owen for another adult medical situation. Another circumstance where their stability might be threatened by things beyond their control. Lily, Owen, I need to tell you about something. Remember how I mentioned needing to see a lung doctor? Both children looked up with the immediate alertness they developed in response to adult announcements about changes or problems. I have an appointment Tuesday morning for some tests to make sure my lungs are working properly. You'll come with me, but you'll stay in a special room with someone who takes care of children while I do the tests. Like when Grandpa Thomas had to go to the lung hospital. Lily asked. Similar tests, but mine are just to check things out and make sure everything is okay. What if everything isn't okay? Owen asked with a direct worry of someone who'd learned that adult health problems could result in permanent disappearances. If there's a problem, the doctors will fix it so I can take care of you for a long, long time. Promise? Lily asked. I thought about promises I couldn't guarantee. About health emergencies that struck without warning, about children who'd already experienced too much loss to bear additional abandonment. I promise I'll do everything the doctors tell me to do to stay healthy and strong enough to take care of you. It wasn't the unconditional promise Lily was seeking, but it was the honest commitment I could make while facing the reality that some health problems couldn't be solved by good intentions or determination. Some tests I was learning had stakes that extended far beyond the person being examined. And some grandmothers faced the terrifying possibility that their own mortality could determine their grandchildren's entire future. Tuesday morning arrived with a kind of cold, gray rain that made everything feel ominous. Lily had barely touched her breakfast, and Owen announced that his stomach hurt, a symptom I recognized as anxiety showing up in physical ways. Grandma Barbara, Lily said while I packed snacks and activities for the waiting room, what if the lung doctors find something really bad? Then we'll deal with whatever they find and we'll deal with it together. But what if you have to go to the hospital like Grandpa Thomas did? I knelt down to Lily's eye level, taking her hands in mine. Lily, I know you're scared because you remember what happened to Grandpa, but these are different tests. And even if the doctors find problems, there are lots of ways to fix lung problems now that help people stay healthy. Did Grandpa Thomas have the same tests? Grandpa Thomas waited too long to see doctors, which is exactly why I'm going now, to catch any problems early when they're easier to fix. The lung clinic was located in a medical building that smelled like cleaning supplies and had the kind of bright lighting that made everyone look pale and worried. Lily and Owen stayed close to me as we checked in, their eyes wide as they took in the medical equipment and the other patients who looked tired and older than I felt. Mrs. Peterson, I'm Rebecca, the child specialist. Lily and Owen, would you like to come see the special room we have for kids whose grown-ups are having medical tests? Rebecca was young and cheerful in the way that people who work with children learn to be, and she led us to a colorful room filled with books, puzzles, and a television playing cartoons. You can watch cartoons or do puzzles or read books while your grandmother has her tests, Rebecca explained. And if you get worried or need anything, just let me know and we can check on her. How long will the tests take? Lily asked. About an hour and a half. That's time for a whole cartoon show and maybe some coloring or puzzles afterward. I hugged both children goodbye, noting how Owen's grip lingered and how Lily's eyes were shiny with unshed tears. "I'll be back in an hour and a half, I promised. Rebecca will take good care of you." The breathing test itself was exactly as difficult as I'd expected. Breathing into tubes while connected to monitoring equipment that tracked my lung function and capacity. Dr. Chen watched the results with the focused attention of someone looking for specific patterns that could indicate serious problems. "Mrs. Peterson, I can see some concerning patterns in your breathing capacity and oxygen levels. We're going to need to do a chest X-ray to get a better picture of your lung structure and function." "Is it serious?" "It's concerning enough that I want more information before making treatment recommendations. The good news is that you're here now getting evaluated rather than waiting for symptoms to become worse." The chest X-ray involved standing still while a technician positioned equipment around me, creating images of my lungs in real time. I watched the technician's face trying to read whether the images showed something serious or routine. "Mrs. Peterson, Dr. Chen would like to speak with you about the results." Dr. Chen's office was filled with the kind of medical certificates and lung diagrams that should have been reassuring but instead reminded me of all the things that could go wrong with human breathing. "Mrs. Peterson, the tests show chronic bronchitis with some early signs of COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Essentially, your airways are inflamed and partially blocked, which is causing the coughing and breathing difficulties you've been experiencing." "Is that treatable?" "Very treatable, but it will require medication, lifestyle changes, and careful monitoring. The good news is that we caught this relatively early, and with proper management, you should be able to maintain normal activities, including caring for your grandchildren." Relief flooded through me so powerfully that I felt lightheaded. "So I don't need surgery?" "Not at this stage. We'll start with medications to open your airways and reduce inflammation. You'll need regular follow-up appointments to monitor the condition, but Mrs. Peterson, this is very manageable with proper care. And I can continue caring for Lily and Owen." "Yes, but with some modifications. You'll need to avoid smoke and air pollution, get adequate rest, take your medications consistently, and keep all follow-up appointments. Do you have support from other family members if you need help with childcare during medical visits?" I thought about Tommy, who was still proving his reliability, and Jennifer, who was facing trial on gambling-related charges. "Some support, but I'm their primary caregiver right now." "Mrs. Peterson, caring for 2 young children while managing a lung condition will require careful attention to your own health needs. You can't provide good care for them if you're not taking care of yourself." When I returned to the children's room, Lily and Owen looked up from a puzzle they'd been working on with Rebecca, their faces immediately scanning mine for signs of bad news. "How did it go, Grandma Barbara?" Lily asked. "The doctors found a problem with my lungs, but it's the kind of problem they can fix with medicine. I'm going to be fine." "Do you have to go to the hospital?" "No hospital. Just medicine and regular checkups with a lung doctor." Owen abandoned the puzzle and wrapped his arms around my waist. "I was scared you were going to die like Grandpa Thomas." "I'm not going to die, sweetheart. The doctors caught this early and they know how to fix it." On the drive home, Lily was unusually quiet, staring out the window at the rain that had finally stopped, leaving everything looking washed clean and somehow more hopeful. "Grandma Barbara," she said finally, "if you have to take lung medicine, does that mean you're old?" "I am old, Lily. Not too old to take care of you and Owen, but old enough that I need to pay attention to my health more carefully. Will you get older while we're living with you?" "Yes, I'll get older, but hopefully I'll get older slowly while watching you and Owen grow up and become amazing people." "What if we're still living with you when you're really, really old?" "Then you'll take care of me the way I'm taking care of you now." That's what families do. They take care of each other when someone needs help. That evening, after Lily and Owen were asleep, I sat in my kitchen with my new lung medication and information about COPD management, thinking about the future I was building with 2 children who'd been placed in my care by circumstances rather than choice. The medication would help manage my condition, but it also served as a daily reminder that my time with Lily and Owen might be limited by factors beyond our control. I needed to use whatever years I had to help them become strong, confident, emotionally healthy adults who could face their own challenges with courage rather than fear. Some health scares, I was learning, served as reminders about priorities that had been clear all along. And some families were built on the understanding that love meant taking care of each other through whatever medical, emotional, or practical challenges life presented. Tomorrow I would start my lung medication and continue the work of raising 2 children whose trust in adult reliability was slowly being rebuilt through daily proof that some promises could be kept, some love was unconditional, and some grandmothers were strong enough to choose family over convenience, even when the cost was higher than anyone had expected. 7 months after becoming Lily and Owen's primary caregiver, I received the call I'd been both dreading and expecting. Ms. Chen from Child Protective Services asked to schedule a home visit to discuss permanent placement options and the future of the Peterson children's custody arrangements. The language was formal, but the meaning was clear. It was time to decide whether Lily and Owen would remain with me permanently or return to Tommy's care now that he'd completed parenting classes, family therapy, and had proven 7 months of stable employment and responsible behavior. Mrs. Peterson, we need to assess both potential living situations to determine what's in the children's best interests. Tommy has made significant progress, but the children have also thrived in your care. I looked around my living room, which had been transformed from a quiet widow's space into an active family area filled with homework supplies, art projects, and the comfortable mess of children who felt secure enough to spread their belongings throughout the house. When do you need to make this decision? Within the next month. We'll be interviewing Lily and Owen about their preferences, evaluating both living situations, and making a recommendation to the family court judge. After ending the call, I realized I needed to prepare Lily and Owen for conversations about their future that would require them to make choices no children should have to face, choosing between a father who was trying to rebuild his reliability and a grandmother who'd provided stability during their most vulnerable period. Lily, Owen, could you sit with me for a few minutes? I need to talk to you about something important. They approached with the careful attention they'd learned to give adult announcements, settling on either side of me on the couch that had become our designated space for serious conversations. Ms. Chen called today. She wants to talk to you about whether you want to keep living here with me or go back to living with Daddy. Lily's reaction was immediate and intense. Do we have to choose? The people who decide these things need to understand what you want and what would make you feel safest and happiest. What happens if we choose different things? Owen asked. What if I want to live with you and Lily wants to live with Daddy? I hadn't considered this possibility, that the children might have different preferences about their future placement, creating an impossible choice between keeping them together and honoring their individual needs. I don't know, sweetheart. Let's hope you both feel the same way about what you want. Grandma Barbara, Lily said, her voice careful in the way she'd learned to use when asking questions that might have painful answers. If we choose to live with Daddy, will you still love us? Lily, my love for you and Owen doesn't depend on where you live. Whether you're here with me every day or visiting on weekends or living across the country, I will always love you exactly the same amount. But will we still see you all the time? We'll see each other as much as possible and we'll talk on the phone and you'll always know that this house is your home too, no matter what. What do you think we should choose? Owen asked. The question put me in an impossible position. I wanted Lily and Owen to stay with me. I'd grown to love the daily rhythms of their lives, the bedtime stories, the homework help, the way they transformed my quiet widowhood into active, meaningful connection with the future. But I also wanted them to have a relationship with their father. And Tommy had worked hard to become more reliable and emotionally present. I think you should choose what feels safest and happiest for you. Both Daddy and I love you and want to take good care of you. But Grandma Barbara, you already proved you can take good care of us. Daddy has to prove he can do it still. Lily's observation was sharp and heartbreaking. These children had learned to evaluate adult reliability based on demonstrated behavior rather than promises. And 7 months of stability with me carried more weight than Tommy's recent improvements after years of negligent oversight. 4 days later, Tommy came for his regular weekend visit, but this time he brought a photo album and what appeared to be house plans that he spread across my dining room table. Kids, I want to show you something. Remember our old house where you used to live? Lily and Owen nodded, though I could see them tensing at the mention of their previous home, which held memories of Jennifer's erratic behavior and Tommy's absence during work hours. Well, I've been working with some people to make it much better. Look at these pictures. The photo album showed extensive renovations to Tommy's house. A new playroom, updated bedrooms for each child, a fenced backyard with swings and slides, and what appeared to be a home office designed to allow Tommy to work from home more frequently. "I've changed my job so I can work from home 4 days a week," Tommy explained. "And Mrs. Henderson from next door is going to help with after-school care on the days when I have to go to the office." "What about Mommy?" Owen asked. "Would Mommy live there too?" "Well, Mommy and Daddy are getting divorced. She's going to live somewhere else and get help with her problems. But you could visit her when the counselors say she's ready." Lily studied the renovation photos with the analytical attention she applied to math problems. "Daddy, why did you change everything? Why didn't you make it better before when we lived there?" Tommy's face showed pain. "Lily, I didn't realize how much better things could be. I thought what we had before was good enough, but Grandma Barbara showed me what really good care looks like." "So you learned from watching Grandma Barbara?" "Yes, sweetheart. I learned that children need consistency and attention, and parents who put their needs first." I felt something complicated twist in my chest. Pride that my caregiving had served as a model for Tommy's growth, but also sadness that it had taken Lily and Owen's traumatic abandonment for him to understand what responsible parenting required. "Grandma Barbara," Lily said after Tommy had left, "what do you think about Daddy's new house?" "I think it shows that he's been working very hard to become a better father. Do you think we should give him another chance?" "What do you think?" "You're the one who would have to live with the consequences of that choice." Lily was quiet for a long time, processing the complexity of family loyalty, earned trust, and the difference between wanting something to work and believing it actually would. "I think maybe we could try it," she said finally. "But Grandma Barbara, if it doesn't work, can we come back here?" "Lily, this will always be your home. No matter what happens, no matter where you live, you and Owen will always belong here with me. Promise." "Promise." That night, as I tucked Lily and Owen into beds they'd slept in for 7 months, I realized that successful temporary care sometimes meant preparing children to leave you, even when every instinct screamed against letting them go. Some love, I was learning, was measured not by holding on but by trusting enough to let go when letting go served the children's best interests. But I was also learning that some families could stretch across multiple homes, that some grandmothers could remain primary support systems even when they weren't primary caregivers, and that some promises were worth making even when you couldn't control all the circumstances that might threaten your ability to keep them. Tomorrow I would support Lily and Owen's decision to try living with their father again. Tonight I would treasure what might be our last evening as a 3-person household that had healed together from trauma none of us had chosen but all of us had survived. The transition meeting took place on a cool November morning in Ms. Chen's office with Lily and Owen sitting between Tommy and me, while various professionals discussed custody arrangements with the clinical efficiency of people who'd managed hundreds of similar family reconstructions. "Lily and Owen have expressed a desire to try living with their father again," Ms. Chen announced, looking at her notes while I felt my heart squeeze with pride and loss in equal measure. "However, they've also requested that Barbara remain actively involved in their care." "What does that mean practically?" Tommy asked. Family Court Judge Patricia Williams, who'd been overseeing our case, looked up from her own papers. "It means we're recommending joint custody with Tommy as primary residential parent and Barbara as secondary caregiver with specified visitation rights and shared decision-making authority." Shared decision-making about what? Medical care, education, therapy, major decisions that affect the children's welfare. Mrs. Peterson has demonstrated excellent judgment in these areas over the past 7 months. I watched Lily and Owen during this discussion, noting how they listened to adults deciding their future with the resigned attention of children, who'd learned that their preferences mattered but weren't always decisive. "What we want to know," Lily said suddenly, addressing Judge Williams with 7-year-old directness, "is what happens if Daddy doesn't do a good job taking care of us? Do we have to stay there anyway?" The question silenced the room. Here was a child who'd been failed by parental neglect, asking for protection against future failures with the practical wisdom of someone who'd learned not to trust adult promises without backup plans. "Lily," Judge Williams said gently, "if your father doesn't provide proper care, you can contact Mrs. Peterson, your teachers, or any trusted adult, and we'll investigate immediately. You won't have to stay in any situation that isn't safe." "What if Daddy says we're being dramatic or making things up?" I felt a chill at Lily's question, recognizing that she was drawing on memory of her mother's manipulation, Jennifer's habit of dismissing the children's legitimate concerns as attention-seeking behavior. Lily, that's exactly why Mrs. Peterson will continue to be involved, Ms. Chen explained. She'll see you regularly, and if she observes problems, she has legal authority to request intervention. How regularly? Owen asked. Every Tuesday evening and every other weekend, Tommy said, plus holidays and any other time you want to see Grandma Barbara. And if there's an emergency, you call Grandma Barbara immediately and she can come get you or send help. The formal custody agreement was signed 4 weeks later, but the real transition happened gradually over the following month. Lily and Owen spent increasing amounts of time at Tommy's renovated house, testing whether his promises of improved parenting would hold up under the stress of daily childcare responsibilities. The first crisis came on a Wednesday evening in December when Tommy called me from urgent care. "Mom, I'm here with Lily. She fell on the playground and we think her wrist might be sprained. Can you come? She's asking for you." I found Lily in a pediatric examination room trying to be brave while tears ran down her face, and Tommy paced nervously nearby. The sight of Lily's obviously injured wrist and Tommy's barely controlled panic reminded me how much the children still needed both of us. Tommy for daily parenting, me for the kind of calm crisis management that came from experience. "Grandma Barbara." Lily reached for me with her uninjured arm, and I gathered her carefully against my chest while Tommy explained what had happened. She was playing on the monkey bars after school and she slipped and landed on her wrist. "Mom, I should have been watching more closely. I should have made sure the playground was safe. I should have." Stop. Accidents happen. Children get hurt sometimes. You brought her to urgent care immediately, and that's what matters. The doctor confirmed a mild sprain that would heal completely with proper wrapping and rest. But as I watched Tommy interact with the medical staff, asking detailed questions, taking notes about care instructions, advocating for Lily's comfort, I realized how much he'd changed in the months since gaining custody. "Mrs. Peterson," the doctor said, noting Tommy's thorough medical information forms, "your son has done excellent preparation today. Having complete records and emergency contacts made our job much easier." After Lily was wrapped and released, Tommy insisted on taking us both out for hot chocolate despite the late hour. "Lily, I want you to know that even though you got hurt while I was supposed to be watching, I'm going to take better care of you going forward. Better playground supervision, better safety checks, more attention during outdoor activities. Daddy, it wasn't your fault. Sometimes accidents just happen." 5-year-old Owen wisdom, absolving his father of guilt while Tommy learned to take responsibility without drowning in self-blame. "Grandma Barbara," Lily said as we shared hot chocolate in a nearly empty cafe, "do you think Daddy is doing a good job taking care of us? What do you think?" "I think he's trying really hard. And when I got hurt, he knew exactly what to do and he didn't panic too much." "What about you, Owen? How do you feel about living with Daddy?" "Like it. His house is bigger and I have my own room with space for my cars. But Grandma Barbara, I still want to see you all the time. You will see me all the time. Every Tuesday, every other weekend, and whenever you need me. Even when we're grown up. Even when you're grown up and have children of your own." 4 months into the new custody arrangement, I received a call that tested everyone's commitment to our reconstructed family structure. Jennifer was being released from jail after serving 10 months for illegal gambling operations, and she wanted to see Lily and Owen. "Mrs. Peterson," Ms. Chen explained, "Jennifer has completed gambling addiction treatment and parenting classes while incarcerated. The court is considering supervised visitation, but we need to assess the children's readiness and your comfort level as their secondary caregiver." What do Lily and Owen want? They're conflicted. They miss their mother, but they're also afraid of her. They want to see her, but only if you're present during visits. And Tommy. Tommy is willing to allow supervised visitation if you agree to facilitate it. I thought about Jennifer. About the woman who'd put her children in an Uber without proper arrangements so she could attend a spa resort where she'd gambled away family savings in private rooms. About the fear in Lily's eyes when discussing her mother's unreliability. About Owen's anxiety every time adults made promises they might not keep. I'll facilitate visits if Jennifer demonstrates genuine commitment to recovery, and if the children continue to want contact. But Miss Chen, if I observe any behavior that threatens Lily and Owen's emotional stability, I'll terminate the visits immediately. That's exactly why we want you involved, Mrs. Peterson. You've proven that you prioritize the children's welfare over family politics or adult convenience. Some families, I was learning, could be rebuilt from crisis if enough people were willing to put children's needs ahead of their own comfort, pride, or convenience. Some custody arrangements worked because they acknowledged that multiple adults could love children in different ways while maintaining clear boundaries about responsibility and authority. And some grandmothers discovered that their most important role wasn't primary caregiver, but guardian of their grandchildren's emotional safety as the family slowly healed from years of neglect and trauma. The work was harder than full-time custody had been, but the results, watching Tommy grow into genuine competence as a father, seeing Lily and Owen rebuild trust in adult reliability, knowing they had multiple sources of love and support, were worth every complicated conversation, every shared decision, every moment when I chose to trust rather than control. Tomorrow I would facilitate Jennifer's first supervised visit with the children she'd abandoned. Tonight I would be grateful for a family that had been reconstructed from crisis into something stronger and more honest than what had existed before the night when saying no to unreasonable demands had ultimately saved everyone involved. 2 years after the night Jennifer put Lily and Owen in an Uber and changed all our lives forever, I stood in my kitchen preparing for Lily's 9th birthday party. A celebration that would include Tommy, the children's new stepmother Andrea, whom Tommy had married 9 months earlier, and even Jennifer, whose supervised visits had gradually evolved into regular weekend custody as she'd maintained her sobriety and demonstrated genuine growth as a parent. The transformation hadn't been easy or quick. Jennifer's first visit with Lily and Owen had been awkward and painful, with both children maintaining careful emotional distance from the mother who'd abandoned them. But over 20 months of consistent supervised contact, Jennifer had proven her commitment to recovery and rebuilt trust through actions rather than promises. Grandma Barbara, Lily said, arranging birthday decorations with the artistic precision she'd inherited from somewhere. Do you think it's weird that we have such a big family now? I looked around my house, which would soon be filled with Tommy and Andrea, Jennifer and her new boyfriend Marcus, a man she'd met in addiction recovery who understood the work required to maintain sobriety, Lily and Owen, and myself. A family configuration that would have seemed impossible during the crisis that had brought us together. I think it's wonderful that we figured out how to love each other in new ways after everything fell apart. Even though it was really hard for a while. Especially because it was really hard. Easy love doesn't teach you much about what people are really made of. Owen, now 7 and filled with the confidence that came from 2 years of consistent care from multiple adults, was helping Tommy set up tables in the backyard. The sight of my son following his child's instructions about party setup with patient attention demonstrated how much he'd changed from the man who'd once enabled Jennifer's neglect through willful blindness. "Mom," Tommy said, joining us in the kitchen. Andrea wanted to know if she should bring anything else for the party. Andrea had entered our complicated family structure with remarkable grace, understanding that Tommy came with children who already had extensive support systems and emotional loyalties that predated her relationship with him. She'd worked to earn Lily and Owen's affection rather than demanding it, and had become genuinely fond of me as the grandmother who'd protected the children when their parents had failed them. "Tell Andrea she's already bringing enough. The cake she ordered will be perfect." My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. "Running 10 minutes late. Lily's gift is a little bigger than expected. Hope that's okay." Over the past year, Jennifer had been careful to respect boundaries about gifts and occasions, understanding that her role in Lily and Owen's lives was important but not primary. She was their mother, but I was their stabilizing force, and Tommy was their daily caregiver. The arrangement worked because everyone understood their position and respected the other's contributions. "Is Mommy bringing something big?" Owen asked, having read Jennifer's text over my shoulder. "Apparently, but Owen, remember what we talked about. The best gifts aren't necessarily the biggest or most expensive ones." "I know, but I still like surprises." At 3 p.m., my backyard was filled with 12 children from Lily's class, plus all the adults who'd learned to function as an extended family despite our complicated history. Jennifer arrived carrying an art easel and supplies that made Lily's face light up with genuine joy. "Mommy, this is amazing. It's exactly what I wanted." Watching Jennifer interact with her children, attentively, soberly, with a kind of present-moment awareness that addiction had stolen from her for years, I felt something I'd never expected: genuine happiness for her recovery rather than just relief about the children's safety. Jennifer, this was thoughtful. Lily's been talking about wanting to paint for months. I remember loving art when I was her age. I thought maybe we could take some art classes together during my weekends with them. The suggestion was tentative, recognizing that Jennifer's time with Lily and Owen still operated within boundaries designed to protect everyone's emotional stability. That sounds like something she'd really enjoy. As the party wound down and various family members helped with cleanup, I found myself standing with Tommy and Jennifer while Lily and Owen played with neighborhood children who'd stayed late. "Barbara," Jennifer said, her voice carrying the careful tone she used when addressing difficult topics, "I want to thank you again for everything you did for them, for stepping up when I failed completely." "You don't need to keep thanking me, Jennifer. Taking care of Lily and Owen wasn't a sacrifice. It was a privilege. But you gave up your retirement plans. Your health was affected by the stress. You turned your whole life upside down because of my terrible choices." I thought about the woman I'd been 2 years ago, comfortable, controlled, carefully structured around my own needs and schedule. Then I looked at Lily, who was teaching younger children how to use her new art supplies with the patient kindness that characterized her approach to most situations. "Jennifer, those terrible choices led to some of the best things that ever happened to me. Lily and Owen changed my life in ways that made it better, not worse. Even the lung problems. The lung problems were probably developing anyway. Having the children with me forced me to get medical attention I might have postponed indefinitely if I'd been living alone." Tommy joined our conversation, carrying the tired satisfaction of someone who'd successfully hosted a children's party without any major crisis. "Mom, I still can't believe how much you did for us. Taking custody of the kids, helping me learn how to be a better father, facilitating Jennifer's recovery relationship with them. Tommy, you became an excellent father once you started paying attention. Jennifer became a responsible mother once she got sober. I just provided stability while you both figured out how to take care of your children properly." As the last guests departed and Lily and Owen settled into quiet play with their birthday gifts, I realized that our story had reached something like a conclusion. Not the neat ending where everyone lived happily ever after, but the more complex resolution where damaged people had learned to function better and children had gained multiple sources of love and support. "Grandma Barbara," Lily said as I tucked her into bed at Tommy's house, where I still spent Tuesday nights and alternate weekends, "when you said no to watching us that day when Mommy called, did you know it would save our family?" "I didn't know anything would save our family, sweetheart. I just knew that I needed to take care of my health so I could be available when you really needed me. And we really needed you. You did. But Lily, you and Owen also saved me. You gave me a purpose I didn't know I was missing and a kind of love I'd never experienced before. The grandmother kind of love. The choosing to stay when everything falls apart kind of love." As I drove home to my own house, I passed the intersection where an Uber driver had made a wrong turn 2 years ago and changed the path of 5 people's lives. The mistake that had seemed like the worst possible outcome had ultimately led to the best possible outcome. Children who felt truly secure for the first time in their lives, adults who'd learned to prioritize family welfare over convenience or avoidance, and a grandmother who'd discovered that saying no to inappropriate demands had positioned her to say yes to the responsibilities that actually mattered. Some families, I'd learned, were strengthened by crisis rather than broken by it. Some love required difficult choices, uncomfortable boundaries, and the courage to prioritize children's needs over adults' feelings. And some grandmothers discovered that protecting their own well-being wasn't selfish. It was the foundation that made everything else possible, including the ability to catch grandchildren when their parents' poor choices sent them falling toward people who were strong enough to break their fall and wise enough to teach them how to build better lives from whatever pieces remained. The end.